Hi everyone, welcome back to my garden. I've not been able to film many videos this year, been busy for various reasons, but what's really taken over the project for the year is the garden patio and path project. I'll give you an update on that. Yeah, it's still not finished, believe it or not. Only been working on it since like March, April time. But I wanted to give you a quick video, quick update on how the garden's looking now, mid-October, and what I'm doing for my winter preparations. I was going to plan a big reveal of the patio and path, but I don't think it's going to happen. It's not finished yet, as I say. So here we go. Here's a soft opening of the new patio down there, which we'll look at shortly, and the path, sloping path here. It's not as steep as it looks there actually. Down to the shed and greenhouse, almost makes it to the trampoline, but we didn't finish that bit because it's a bit where we've dug out and sunk the trampoline. I don't really want to be laying tiles down right up next to it, so we stopped it there, but really happy with it so far. So this path is completely new. Previously I would run out on a cold winter's night, run down here, and then there would be a little step here, and then it'd be grass. Several times I'd slip and fall over, which would have been hilarious if people had seen. Fortunately, it was normally dark and no one around, so got away with it. And yes, it just makes it so much easier. I can come outside without shoes on now to go to the shed or greenhouse. Doesn't sound like much, but it's quite a nice luxury, I think. So this area is the same size. Oh, these gabion walls look a bit tatty. Don't I need to redo them? That's on the list. So this is broadly the same. I haven't been able to paint the decking this year, the raised beds, so they look tatty. This bit we just made a little bit wider. This bit a little bit wider as well, just to make the path bigger. And then this section here is much bigger than it was before, so I'm really happy with this bit. It's also higher, and I know in my last update people were worried that I had gone too high. I haven't, I can assure you. Just trying to see now. Here we are. Here, excuse the paint on my fingernail. Here is the damp-proof membrane. I think that's what it's called. And you can see if you follow that line, it's well above, 2 bricks above. So we're absolutely fine. Thank you for your concern, though. The several people who commented. So yeah, so previously this path was probably only up to about here, maybe 1.5 tiles wide. So we've made it much bigger. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do yet. I certainly am going to put some more pots here next year in the spring. So yeah, and then the bit you might say, oh, it looks finished. Well, this bit isn't finished. We need to fill that in with concrete. We need to do a step there, and down here, this is where we keep our bins. So I'm not, I'm just going to tidy this up a bit, but not too worried about that. I'm going to do something a bit nicer down here, but not tile it. We've got 3 tiles left to put in. So the other side of that gate is a path just like this one, 2 wide, all the way down to the drive. So it will look pretty smart when we're finished. The only regret really is that we didn't overlap, actually on this one, we didn't overlap. So if we'd brought the tile out a bit further, we could have then cut a tile and gone down that way as well. So it would have been tiled, it would have been a really smart finish, I think. From this way, I don't think it matters too much because the bricks match the house. But when you're over here looking this way, I just don't think it looks quite as good. But you live and learn, don't you? So, quick update. This is just a sort of a one-take video. I've not really still got much time to edit or anything, but been bit like all my videos I've done really, but here's how everything's looking then. So bamboo, Philostachys hasn't really grown a lot, I don't think. In all the years I've had it, it's maybe a foot taller, maybe, I don't know. Not very much at all. So I control that with a little sort of moat, which I dug out recently. It's filled up with leaves already. But so far so good with that. These borders really haven't had any attention at all this year. One of my plans for next year is to take this out, this big conifer that's been there. That's not really grown too much either, but it's just not very in keeping with the style, I don't think. Some of these Christmas trees I will get to in a minute. I'll explain about those shortly. This large fir here, or spruce, that'll come out at some point next year, I imagine. This Trachycarpus is bulking up nicely now. More bamboo. This, I'm not quite sure what this one is, but it's variegated. That's quite nice. It wants to spread like mad though, so it takes a lot of controlling. And as you can see, it's right up against the fence to next door. So again, I control that with a trench. It doesn't look very deep there, but it must be 10 inches deep at least. And I fairly regularly go down and just make sure that nothing's growing. I normally do find something growing, trying to spread, so I cut through that and make sure it doesn't. This bit needs a bit of attention next year as well. It just doesn't look very tropical. This bit here, look. The Mahonio I like. I'm gonna keep that. Then this Christmas tree here, I'm gonna harvest in December, and I'm gonna use, probably not as our main Christmas tree. It's a bit bare, look, and you see quite a bit of trunk there. So not ideal, but for the playroom, or yeah, probably the playroom, we'll put it in there, as long as my wife agrees. She's the boss. Then monkey puzzle, doing quite well. So this year has been a year where it's grown up. That sounds a bit strange to say, doesn't it? But let me try and show you. So what will happen next year is this will grow buds that go off in separate directions, like it's done here. We've got 4 different branches. So next year we'll be focusing on that. I think the following year will then be those branches growing outwards, and then the following year after that will be the next sort of stage of growth upwards. That seems to be how it grows. Lots of dead cordyline trunks need to come off. They have all resprouted. It's hard to tell, but there's some cordyline leaves there. And this bit sort of looks quite nice, quite jungly, I think. Very densely packed together. The only problem with that, of course, is you can't see my beautiful little Trachycarpus wagnerianus, which is a shame. But I figured that the Fatsia will grow up, and the canopy of it will be out the way, and I can sort of trim the lower leaves that start growing to expose that a bit more, make a bit more of a feature of it. This section here, again, not too tropical, so I need to address that next year. And that Trachycarpus fortunei is growing nicely as well. These 2 palms here are Shamus humilis volcano. I got these from Hardy Palms maybe 2 years ago. They're different forms, interestingly. This one's much bluer and is a solitary trunk as well. Well, it's actually developed a pup over there, but it's predominantly a solitary trunk. There's another one coming out there, actually, I think. Is that a weed? No, that's a trunk. or another, another trunk in the making. Whereas this one, bought exactly the same time, is much greener and has a lot of pupping going on. A lot more action. There we are. Look, let's use the weed. I'll try not to sever my finger on the spines there. Pups everywhere. So interesting that they're so different. Although if you stand way back, then I suppose they look the same to most people. One of the problems with having a garden that kids can play in is cord lines will get knocked over by footballs. So I might just plant that really deep. I might just fill it up with soil and see if it survives. This is my biggest Trachycarpus fortunei, and I think it's looking pretty good. I've often thought about raising the canopy a little bit, mainly to expose some trunk, because I think it's nice to see a trunk. I won't do that this time of year, but that may be a job for the spring. We've got, this didn't really work, this Acer. Just doesn't seem to be growing upwards. Do Acers not grow upwards? That sounds, sort of talking about similar things to my monkey puzzle here, but it just seems to grow outwards rather than upwards, which isn't really the look I was going for. My Wallamy pine, I mean, that keeps going up. I don't think that's ever going to stop. And from this angle, it's got a bit of a lean to it, but it's not getting any worse. So I'm relatively relaxed about that. I did try last year to stop it from branching. It seemed very keen to branch, and this year it's done it again, and it's getting too high now. I can't really control it, so it's just gonna have to do its thing, and we'll see what happens to that. But really pleased to have such a nice and unusual, relatively speaking, tree in the garden as well. My Musa Basjou is looking a bit tatty this time of year, obviously, with the cold weather, the winds. We've had heavy rain as well. Ignore the offcuts of tiles. I say we haven't quite finished yet, bricks everywhere. This Shamrops humilis, spear pulled last year, or in the winter. No sign of any regrowth, unfortunately, but it is, some of the pups have been unaffected. So there's 1, 2, 3 pups unaffected. You can see some were affected, they spear pulled as well. And these aren't new pups, these were already here, so it's just interesting that those survived and others didn't. I guess they were slightly protected from the canopy that was coming out of here before. So not sure, I might saw through this trunk in the spring, but again I'll leave that till next year. I successfully managed to divide one of my Musa Basjou pups. Several others died, but one survived. That's good. This is my annual Washingtonia seedling planting, so that will be dead in spring, I'm sure. The cordline used to be a lovely solitary trunk cordline, and now it's got about 1,000 trunks. Or it will do when these grow. So quite hard to show you really, but there's perhaps not 1,000. That could be an exaggeration, but there must be at least 15 or 20, I would say. And then the greenhouse. So this is set up ready for winter now. So let me open this. My Braha Amata is looking pretty good. That lives over in that corner during the spring, summer, early autumn. and then it comes into the greenhouse over winter, and that just sits in the middle of the greenhouse, taking up lots of room and you know, shading out other plants and just being a nuisance really. But it's such a lovely plant, I don't want to lose it. I've got loads of Washingtonia palms ready to replace that one, and I normally plant quite a few actually around the raised beds as a sort of a you know, bedding almost. So these are protected only slightly with a heat cable running round. That one's actually not. That's just the lead that goes to the plug for the second heat cable. But can you see there's just a heat cable sort of weaving around all or most of the pots. Then we've got some cord lines. They don't really need any protection, but they've just got the heat cable as well. And we've got some sorry looking Canary Island date palms. I do have, here we are, an interesting Phoenix palm. It's not had the best year, it's lost a few leaves, but it is starting to get divided leaves. So this is my Phoenix Reclanter crossed with Reclanter. I don't quite understand, but apparently it's quite an exciting one to keep an eye on, and it has been quite vigorous in its growth so far. Quite a few Phoenix Robellini or something. I'm never any good at pronouncing the names, seedlings. This is one of the most advanced ones, and then there's lots that were only sown during the winter, lots of seedlings, so they'll need separating in the spring. That's a Baraha edulis. It's always been a bit of a funny one. You can see it's sort of creeping, showing a lot of creeping growth. There's a yucca there. There's some Jubea seedlings. I've probably got about 10 of them, and one slightly large one. That's my largest Jubea, unfortunately. It is starting to pick up a bit of pace now, so hopefully it's also really trying to push itself out of the pot. Can you see the roots? Every time I repot it, I go for a deeper pot, and it still seems to push itself out quite quickly. Some sago palms there. There's a formium in there. I'm very sad to say there's a dead bootia, which is a real shame. That was in a pot. It still is, as you can see. That was at the front of the house, which is south facing. It was up against the wall during the cold spells, but I think the prolonged cold spell froze the pot solid, and there's sort of a tiny hint of green in there, or perhaps I'm just wanting to see that, but it's not spear pulled, so a little bit confused what's going on there. So obviously I'm going to keep hold of that until something happens, either it grows or spear comes out. I could take it out of the pot maybe next year if nothing's still happening, and see what the roots are like, but it's quite a big pot, so we'll see what happens. As you can see, it's got a heat cable going around it a little bit there. Again, that probably doesn't need it in here, but I think that's the end of the cable and I had a bit left. So that's my winter preparation really. I don't really do anything else. I'm quite relaxed on everything else. So this one I'll leave to die. There are various other things that will, obviously the bananas I just leave, and they'll the growth above ground will die, and they'll regrow from the roots next year. This cordline, red cordline, or group of red cordline now, they normally die every year and regrow. Sometimes they survive, and to be honest, with this sort of outward growing Acer that could protect it, and also gets protection from above, so they've got a decent chance of surviving. And yeah, that's it really. So I think this video has been slightly longer than I expected, but just wanted to give you an update on this beautiful sunny mid-October morning. And I have got some ideas for more videos, just need a bit of time to do them. And when the patio is completely finished and tidied up and all this is painted and looking nice, then I'll do a proper sort of reveal on that. But that's it for me for now, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again.